Hey guys, JB here from Alpha Wolf Consulting. All right, coming to you today with the next lesson. And this lesson is all about, well, what is self-belief? Now, if we understand that belief is just thought in habit, so habitual thinking, thinking the same thought again and again and again and again, and that's what creates the belief, because the belief is just terminology. If we think about it like this, a thought is conscious, a belief is subconscious. So a belief is just a thought that we've thought so much that the synaptic pathways have become so strong that our subconscious, upon environmental or external shifts, runs that thought process or that narrative. Okay, so self-belief is just thoughts on self. Okay, so what self-belief is just when I believe or I say to myself, you can do this, you can achieve this, and again and again and again. And every time I feel negative about self. So if we think about it like this, belief is just general. Self-belief is belief about this self. So it's all about those positive and negative narratives that revolve around self. Okay. So if we think about it like this, whenever we're doing anything in life where we become, insecure, we get those feelings of fear, self doubt, and all of this, you can't do it, you're not good enough, and this and that. Okay. It's the self belief is just the internal dialogue narratives and, you know, language patterns we use to reinforce the positive aspects of self. Okay, so that is in context what self-belief is. Self-belief is just me promoting consciously, okay, positive aspects, positive mantras, positive narratives, positive, stories, meaning, language patterns about myself, to myself, when I feel low about myself. Does that make sense? So, what we want to understand is, well, how do I cultivate self belief within myself? If I understand that it's all about conditioning in thoughts, narratives, language patterns, and all of this, so much so that they become like a subconscious routine or an unconscious computation or program for my mind. Well, what we have to understand is that whenever I start to feel negative about myself, I must become aware of my environment externally and my environment internally. I need to understand what are the external markers that are making me feel this way, making me feel negative, making me feel self doubt, making me feel insecure. But I also have to understand within myself what is the language, what are the narratives, what are the thought patterns or language patterns or stories that I tell myself that make me feel negative about myself. When I have identified those, every time I feel that way, I consciously, okay, start running a new pattern. So the important thing to understand about this is that whenever I feel insecure about myself, I have to consciously build myself up with positive and empowering statements, mantras, stories, meaning, language patterns, narratives. Okay. And what I have to do is then condition it so it becomes an unconscious behavior. And the only way to do that is by day in, day out. So 90 days in a row is what it takes to build a habit. So for 90 days, every time I feel insecure, I have to positively build myself up and empower myself. And then what happens is my subconscious mind sort of takes that as when I feel self doubt, this is how I deal with it, or this is what I do about it. Just to the same, when I feel hungry, my subconscious pattern is you should eat food. So I start to think about food. This is how it works. So when I feel negative or self doubt, my subconscious mind will start to feel empowered and start to run positive and empowered narratives. And that's the key. So that is what self belief is. Self belief is just positive and empowering narratives, language patterns, meaning, language, stories, and all this other stuff that we use, okay, when a feeling or the external environment is making, so when my external environment or my internal environment is making me feel negative, making me feel lack, making me feel self doubt, making me feel insecure, fear, all of this, not being good enough. What we are doing is retraining our subconscious mind and our conscious mind through conscious awareness and directed activities to essentially condition in the behaviors that we want our subconscious mind to take. So when we're thinking about doing something new, we feel inspired, we feel empowered. But then when we start doing it and taking those actions is when all the negative self-doubt and all of that will kick in. So what we have to do is persevere through doing the activity, but also consciously reinforcing positive beliefs, positive narratives, positive language patterns. And like, what is a positive belief or a positive narrative or a positive language pattern? And it's just when I feel insecure about who I am, you can do this. You can do this. When I feel not good enough, you are good enough. You are worthy. And we just keep saying, you are good enough. You are worthy. You're good enough. You're worthy. You're good enough. You're worthy. Until we feel that emotional shift, and then we let it go. And then the next time we feel that emotion change to where I start feeling not good enough, then I reinforce you are good enough, you are worthy, you are good enough, you are worthy until I feel that emotional shift. Because the emotional shift is the understanding that it is taking root. So if I'm telling myself you are good enough and you are worthy, when I start to feel good about myself, job done. And then we continue on. And then when I'm brought back to feeling negative about myself or insecure or fearful of who I am, then we reinforce consciously until we get that emotional shift and then we cease. And we just do this practice again and again and again because what we're conditioning our subconscious mind is that when you get a feeling lack, self doubt, fear, insecurities, not feeling good enough, this is the program we run until there is an emotional shift and then we cease to run that program. So it's sort of like the way to understand this is that when we do this and we condition in this behavior or we reprogram our subconscious mind to run these programs, what will happen is when I start to feel after that 90 days, when I start to feel negative or insecure or self doubt, as soon as I go to run any program that is not positive or empowering, my subconscious mind will refuse. So if I try to, give into that self-doubt and that fear and start running a negative pattern, well, that is not the habit that my subconscious mind has formed. So it will feel wrong. And that's one of the beautiful things about the subconscious mind is that when we reprogram in these positive beliefs, if I try to consciously be negative towards myself, it doesn't feel like me. But if I haven't reprogrammed my subconscious mind with positive and empowering beliefs and positive and empowering narratives, language patterns, stories, meaning, You know, all of this, what will happen is my subconscious mind is used to the negative, you know, the negativity, the negative belief, the limiting belief, the negative narrative, the negative language pattern, the negative story, and the negative meaning. So if I try to say something positive about myself, it doesn't feel right. It feels foreign. So what we're doing is we're reshifting, okay? So we're reshifting our sort of our state of feeling comfortable and natural to I only feel comfortable and natural in positive narratives, language patterns, and all of this. Okay. And I feel uncomfortable and it feels foreign when I try to say negative. And that's one of the awesome things. So, in self belief, what we got to understand is we're just using language to reconditioning our language, and we're conditioning in new positive language until it becomes a belief. 90 days. Okay. And then as we do it again and again and again, day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out, those thoughts become so strong that they become beliefs. And a belief is just a thought that I know without a shadow of a doubt is true. And truth is relative to me, just like truth is relative to you. So if I tell myself I am someone who is worthy, who is good enough, day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out, until that becomes a strong belief that I know is true without a shadow of a doubt, any thought, any situation, any circumstance that tries to counteract that is trying to break a fundamental truth of my existence. And that's an important thing because essentially, when we can condition it in that strongly, that's how we can get to the point where nothing can affect us because for anything to affect us, we have to rip out that programming that we've just put in and then put in and condition new programming. That's why for the first 3 months of doing, building our self-belief, it's going to feel unnatural. And then after it becomes a habit, it will start to feel natural. And then anything other than it feels unnatural. And that's a beautiful thing because then essentially what's happening in life is for me to think anything but self-confidence, self-belief feels wrong, feels unnatural. And that's an awesome thing because that just empowers me throughout life that no matter what situation, no matter what is happening to me, my mind, my subconscious mind, and my conscious mind only ever want to think positively about me. And this isn't to say like we're being egotistical or narcissistic. We're just saying that when I try to do something in life and achieve something, if I feel inferior or I don't feel good enough, what's going to happen is if I get those feelings, even if I try to feed into those feelings, it doesn't feel right because my subconscious mind knows one truth that I am worthy. So what happens is it's more difficult for my mind to think negatively than my mind to think positively. So the positive route becomes the easiest route. If you haven't done any work into conditioning and reprogramming subconscious thought, what tends to happen is your mind is conditioned to the negative, okay, and the positive is what feels foreign. So it's just through conditioning and new narratives till they become a habit or a belief, okay? And then once that's rooted in, anything that goes against that belief is foreign to me. So it's foreign to me to feel self-doubt about who I am because I know I can do anything in life. I know I have the ability and the power to persevere through whatever challenge comes up. So for me to feel like that challenge is insurmountable, goes against a fundamental belief of mine that I can overcome any challenge. Like, does that sort of make sense? So it becomes more difficult for me to try and go against myself than it is for me to support myself. It's easier for me to back myself when I've conditioned in and reprogrammed positive and empowered beliefs than it is for me to tear myself down. All right. So I hope this gives you a bit of a better understanding about what is self belief. And it's just, we've got belief is general, self belief is belief in self. So it's all about the self. All right. Well, you guys have an amazing day. And that finishes up this lesson. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much. Bye.